something came into the room at my grandparents' haunted farmhouse. There were flashing lights outside, and this monster thing kept looking at me and running around the room. That must have been the aliens.
From NCPR and the Adirondack Center for Writing, this is the Howl Podcast. True stories, no notes. I'm Ethan Shantie. During the ice storm of 1998, the entire North Country was covered in a sheet of ice that shut down our schools, businesses, and sent people without power into shelters. It was a disaster. But for me, I really only have happy memories. Most of my family was there under one roof, and with no TV and no computers, we passed the time listening to the radio and playing hand after hand of Uno. I even wrote my first short story, which was about a werewolf in our basement. And every night after we finished dinner, my dad would tell us a story from his childhood. The one that stuck with me goes like this. My grandpa Hermie Shantie had been up in a hunting camp by himself for about a week. It was late November and halfway through hunting season. He'd seen lots of does and a few spike horns, but nothing worth shooting yet. It could be a little boring up there at the camp, but he didn't mind. It was time away from Alcoa, where he worked the pot lines, time away from his kids busting each other up, time for him and him alone. Hermie was a meticulous hunter. Each trip he'd pack the same things, enough food to get him by for a week, his rifle, shells, maybe a change of clothes, and that was about it. Everything else that he would need was there at the camp and never left. There was a Coleman lantern, some paperback books, a wood stove, blankets, and one of those baseball bat-sized flashlights that took about 40 batteries to power. On this particular trip, all his necessities were accounted for, except for that flashlight. The first day at the camp, he'd been too tired to notice that it had gone missing. He always kept it on top of their pantry cabinet, but it was nowhere to be seen. And when he did notice that it was gone, he checked everywhere. In the space between the cabinet and the wall, under the beds, he checked all the unlikely places that it might have ended up, and no dice. He gave up the search and figured, well, maybe he accidentally brought it home, but he wasn't about to make that long trip back to civilization just to get a flashlight. The lantern would have to do. So one night, Hermie found himself really locked into a Louis L'Amour Western novel and just lost track of time. It's an easy thing to do when you're up there at camp. It's miles and miles away from home with only a few neighbors that you see maybe once or twice a year. It's dead quiet, too. The only sound is the occasional animal that's crashing through the woods. You spend most of your day alone in silence. So before Hermie knew it, the daylight had drained completely. He was on the final pages of the book, and he didn't really feel much like going out to sit in the cold again to try to catch a deer. So he lit the lantern, made some supper, and went back to the book. When his eyes started to droop, he finally put the book down and turned out the lantern. There were rumors that there was this gigantic 12-point buck kicking around the woods, the kind of legendary animal with big fangs and battle scars that just gets bigger and scarier each time the story is told. So Hermie didn't want to waste another day reading and maybe miss out on a trophy. Just then, the camp filled with light, bursting in through the windows, the doors, the crooked seams where warmth would escape those cold fall nights. Hermie shot up in bed, pulled the blanket tighter around him, and shouted, "Who's out there?" The door to the cabin burst open, and there, silhouetted in the blinding light of whatever craft had invaded the quiet woods, stood a slender creature. Hermie scrambled out of the bed, started searching for a weapon, his rifle too far away, his knife in his hunting coat, nothing. The light outside softened, then dimmed, and then went out. And at the same moment, the Coleman lantern hanging from a nail began to glow. It hissed, and the wick bags glowed like the cold cheeks of a ghost. The thing walked into the cabin. It was as short as a child, and its limbs were like thin tree branches. It looked like it had just come in from the rain. "Who are you?" Hermie asked it. It slithered forward. Hermie edged backward, and he was running out of space. Before he could make a move to run, the creature extended its hand, and Hermie heard, in his head, "We're sorry to have disturbed you. You must be looking for this." In its outstretched palm, it held the flashlight, and Hermie felt a ridiculous calm come over him. "You must be looking for this," it said again, and placed the flashlight in Hermie's hands. It had no facial features whatsoever, and didn't breathe. It was just a total blank. Hermie didn't know what to do but say thanks. The thing stood there a moment longer, then went back out through the doorway, into the night, where a brief light warmed the woods again. And then it vanished. I didn't know whether to believe my dad's story or not, but I do remember noticing for the first time just how dark the house could get, just how quiet it could be, with no lights, no television, no electric hum. And I remember hoping in secret that someday I might be visited too. Today's story comes from Dave Prosper from Potsdam, New York. Dave is a subscriber to the Howl newsletter, and he read my column one day and sent me his pitch for this story that you're about to hear. So here's Dave Prosper recorded in the NCPR studios in Canton, New York.
All right, so my newly single mom figured that I was mature for my age and could be left alone for a few hours on a Friday night. But she came home to an 8-year-old that was convinced by an infomercial that aliens were abducting him. So how was that? So I was 8, I had a little brother, and it was October 1988. I had just moved to a new town, Brushton, and over the summer, I had an orthodontic device put in called a Frankel, which effectively made me talk like Daffy Duck. And of course, we had lots of reading class at my new school. I had glasses and some other stuff done to me too over that summer, so I was not doing too well in the making new friends department. And also, while my brother would go to his father's house, I did not go. We did not get along. I would go to like my grandma's or my aunt's house. So what must have happened this fateful weekend was my mom really needed to do something. Maybe it was overtime at work. Maybe she was going on a date. Maybe she was just hanging with friends. Maybe it was a family thing because my aunt and grandmother were both booked as well. So this led to her kind of looking at me and saying, all right, listen, you're smart for your age. I'm going to leave you here for a few hours. Don't touch the stove. You can microwave popcorn. Don't go outside. Don't go with anyone. Don't have friends over. That one was easy. I had none at this point. And then she went on her whatever she had to do. I'm alone, happily popping popcorn. It's getting dark out, and I turn on one of the 5 channels that we have because I lived in Franklin County in 1988, so we did not have cable, and we had our choice of like 3 Canadian stations and 2 American ones, one of which played the greatest thing my little brain had ever seen at that point, something called UFO Cover-Up? ? Live! ! So very recently I had my first library book that I took out, which was all about UFOs, and I was hooked. I needed to know more about these things, and this show promised me a lot of new information. Apparently there was a government cover-up about the UFOs. They had aliens that crashed in the desert. There were aliens working with the government, giving us technology. People are getting abducted by aliens. This is like such a revelation to me. I could not believe this. And coincidentally, you could find this on YouTube or archive.org. I cannot recommend watching it enough. It is a strange, strange thing. Looking back at it now, it's a scam for like calling 900 numbers. Because during this show, all the time they're asking you to call one of 5 900 numbers to report on what alien encounter you had. Did you see a UFO? Did a UFO land in front of you? Did the occupants come out and talk to you? Did they bring you onto the ship and do stuff to you? You could even call a number for nothing at all, to just say you've never seen anything. And for those who don't know, a 900 number was a number you would call, and it would charge you a lot of money a minute to call. Psychic hotline, there are some naughty ones, there are some dating ones, and then apparently this UFO one. I was smart enough not to call it. I knew my mom would be extremely mad at me. And also I had nothing to report at first, I thought. And I should also add that the host of this is a guy named Mike Farrell. He played Captain Honeycutt on MASH, which was one of like the 10 shows that were on at the time. And to me, he was like an authority figure. He wouldn't lie to me. Klinger would, but not Captain Honeycutt. So he's interviewing all these obvious scammers and grifters who you can still see on like Ancient Aliens and other things. Like baby versions of them are on this show. It's amazing to watch. So I'm believing all of this. Then it gets to the UFO abduction stuff. And they're talking about hypnotic regression, showing people like going under hypnosis and remembering these buried memories about aliens taking them and bringing them on the ship and experimenting on them. I'm terrified. And I have the thought, well, if you don't remember it, then could that have happened to me? I was a very anxious and worried little kid, I overthought everything. This is a terrible thing for me to watch unsupervised. And so, here's the thing. The show had a lot of very, very handy hints to determine if you too were abducted. One of them was, have you had nightmares? If you had nightmares where you're kind of stuck in your bed and can't get up for some reason, well, that's not night paralysis. That means the aliens came for you. Have you had dreams where there was like a wolf or an owl looking at you in the window or something? That's called a quote-unquote cover memory. And that's to cover up the horror of your alien abduction experience, you see. And my mom had these recurring dreams where she was like fighting off wolves that were trying to get into the house. And so I also had these dreams. But that's also an extremely single mom kind of dream to have. Especially my mom, who basically became Sarah Connor at this point in time in my life. Not coincidentally, her favorite movie is Terminator 2. So, no. Those are all signs of alien abduction. 1,000,000%. So, I could not believe it. And then, of course, I remembered another thing that happened to me. Something came into the room at my grandparents' haunted farmhouse. There were flashing lights outside, and this monster thing kept looking at me and running around the room. That must have been the aliens. Oh, I could not believe this. I was freaked out. So, my mom came home to me saying some of the most insane things she could have ever expected her child to say, asking if I could be hypnotically regressed. A thing that I knew from my mother, because she was really into Edgar Cayce at the time and reincarnation. And so she talked about, oh, you could do hypnotic regression and then you find your past lives. So that was like fine for her. But me being regressed to find out about the aliens, oh, no, that's silly. You will not be doing that. And good on her, because that would have probably created the memories even more firmly in my brain. Because hypnotic regression is a scam. Don't do it. You will create new memories with the help of your therapist. So I had a little mouth on me. And so I couldn't stop talking about this. I'm at my aunt's house a little while later, and I'm babbling to her about the aliens. And she just makes this terrible decision. She says, you know what? This reminds me of a book I have. You should read this. She hands me a copy of Whitley Strieber's Communion. He's a horror writer. There's a whole thing back then, and I know other friends that this happened to, of parents giving their kids horror books to read, like Stephen King's It when they were like 10. Yeah, that happened to me, a lot of other people. So Strieber, top-notch horror writer. So this book is scary. And the framing is, I don't know if this is really happening to me or if I'm going insane. Later on, he writes more books and he is firmly convinced this is happening to him. He's a wild guy. So I made the mistake of reading this, and there's the scary alien on the cover. And not only did he start to remember his things after hypnotic regression, he had a triggering moment, which was him remembering being abducted when he went to his cabin in the Adirondacks. So that was it. That just convinced me even more. I really don't know what my aunt was thinking giving me that book. Maybe she thought I would somehow read it and figure out it was in my head or whatever. No. 100% real. So I'm telling all of my classmates this at school. I am not liked. I'm a little weird liar kid because I also told crazy stories at the time, probably just to get any kind of attention because I was, alone a lot. So, Mr. tells everyone he has a time machine at home. It's like now telling everyone he's abducted by aliens. No. But there was one group of people that did take this seriously. It was the school administrators and my teachers. Oh, my poor mother. She got pulled in. She told this to me afterwards. And they were giving her a talking to. Because, of course, some little kid talks about people coming into his room at night and, like taking him away. That's extremely distressing. And I, of course, went to the school counselor. That was just a bonus for me. I got to talk to a nice lady for an hour instead of, doing classwork. That was great. Here's the thing. Over time, I realized that this is not real. It took a little longer than it should have, but I got socialized, I got friends, things got normal. It was the end of college when I finally realized this. And why did that take so long? Beginning of college, I decided that this is silly. Why do I believe this? I'm going to go to the source. Because my college was big on going to source materials. So I reread Whitley Strieber's Communion. And in it, he talks about the experiences happening to him when he went to his first college His first 2 years were at my same college. Oh no, that just convinced me again. The college I went to also has a reputation for driving everyone insane with its weirdness. Oh, St. John's College of Annapolis, Maryland never changed. So, all that said and done, I finally get out of it. I realize it's all just kind of created in my own head. I made myself believe this. It actually comes in handy later on in life. I ended up having a job where I had to tell people what to think about the UFO reports that they're submitted. Like, I would answer people's abduction questions as part of my job because I worked as a subcontractor for NASA and had like a communications email address. So everyone in the office is like, oh, give those to Dave. He's good at this. And I would respectfully respond, talk with him a bit. And also never expected that I'd be the person from like, quote unquote, the government telling people that what they saw was in fact Venus. It is Venus a lot of the time, by the way. It's shocking. So the other thing was people still come to me like from the people I went to school with, and they've had their weird experiences ever since. They don't know that I'm like pretty skeptical now, but they'll come to me, they at least trust me. I can talk with them about it. It helps me kind of realize where they're coming from and where other people are with this. Like, how do you have this in your head? It's like, well, I understand the how because it happened to me. So I can kind of chat with them about that. And honestly, it's really helpful nowadays because believing you were abducted by aliens is kind of like a baseline thing. It's kind of normal now. Like, people believe way weirder stuff, it's considered normal nowadays. So that's all good. And I guess maybe the most important and maybe the scariest thing I can take away from this is that memory is so fallible. It's so easy to manipulate and change, even if it's very vivid. Sometimes the vividness is like just part of you like lacquering on extra details unintentionally. Maybe the fallibility of memory is way scarier than, say, actually getting abducted by aliens.
Thanks so much for being with us for this episode, and thanks to Dave for the story. By the way, he wanted me to let you know that the scary monster in the bedroom turned out to be his cousin Joe, who, despite the scare, Dave says was the definitive cool older cousin. That's going to do it for this season of the Howl Podcast, but don't worry, the Howl newsletter isn't going anywhere, and every week you'll get new stories delivered to your email inbox. And if you sign up, you've got an exclusive chance to pitch me your story and appear on the podcast next season, just like Dave Prosper did. Sign up right now at ncpr.org/howl. The Howl Podcast is written, produced, and edited by me. I'm Ethan Shantie. Emily Russell was my script editor for this one. Doyle Dean is our production manager. Bill Hanel is our digital guy. And Caitlin Kelly handles our social media. Till next season, I'm Ethan Shantie for the Howl Podcast. This is NCPR.